I'm going to put you guys under the gun here. If you're Jorge Lorenzo, do you pull the trigger? Johnson, you first.
It's a good question. It would depend. You're probably asking for a straight yes or no answer, aren't you?
No, feel free to explain to us. This is not a straightforward situation at all. Like, no. There's legitimate pros and cons on either side here.
Yeah, and for me, if I'm Lorenzo, ultimately, as much as we've said a lot about Rossi and the atmosphere in that camp, he's probably on the best overall package for him to win races and championships right now. It would depend on what Ducati offered, not in terms of money, as I feel like Lorenzo's, he's not exactly going around surviving on beans on toast as it is. He'll be on very good money.
Factory Yamaha money. It's going to be very good money because they gave him the big contract in 2010 when Rossi left.
Exactly.
So, yes.
So for me, it would be what Ducati could offer from a technical and winning championship standpoint. That's the thing. Race drivers and riders, very pragmatic beings at the end of the day. They want success and they want the best chance possible of victory. Can you give me that? If so, we're in business. And for me, it feels like, we were talking earlier about those guys who are the difference between really good drivers and riders, racers, and guys who will win races and championships. And what you get with Lorenzo, that's the reason why Ducati are throwing huge numbers around here. With Lorenzo, you get a huge amount. You don't just win, you don't just get a championship winning rider. You don't just get one of the greatest in MotoGP history. You get a guy with a huge amount of experience. And to me, it feels to me like he would work hard behind the scenes on the development of the bike. And he would work hard on the setup. He would work hard on, helping his teammates out. If he was a leader, he would lead that, to use a phrase from other sports, he would lead the locker room.
Yes.
And I feel like that's why Ducati, at this point, it feels like Ducati need Lorenzo more than Lorenzo needs Ducati. So
yes, absolutely.
If I'm Lorenzo at this point, Ducati have got to offer something to me beyond just money to persuade me to leave this overall really good package. Just being outside of Rossi's shadow might not be enough. But at the same time, we don't know Jorge personally. It might be. It might be the case of, hey, I've done everything I can at Yamaha. These guys are insistent on making this the temple of Rossi. I'm going with Ducati because I think that I can make them into a championship winning team. And that on its own, that ego, that little thing in a race driver's or a racer's ego saying, hey, I can be the one to win with this team when no one else could. I'll be the one who did it. That can be quite powerful. So if Lorenzo wants to leave a legacy with Ducati, that could be the persuading factor.
I mean, there's only a handful of riders that have ever won the championship with two different manufacturers. Valentino Rossi is one of those dudes, and he's made it he changed his tune regarding Lorenzo and his motivation behind him. Because shout out to our podcast thumbnail designer Sarah Daniela, who's a big fan of the show and big friend of the show. So shout out to her as ever. And she said it. She posted a quote from the Saxon Ring back in 2014, where he said, Jorge Lorenzo is towards the effect of Jorge Lorenzo is a very motivating figure. He's a great guy to have as a yardstick on the same bike to try and beat. After Argentina last week, Rossi came out and said that Lorenzo needs big balls to go to Ducati. So you could see that Rossi is playing the mind games again.
Oh, he is.
He wants Lorenzo out of that team because it could very easily clear a path for him to get to title number 10 if that Ducati is not competitive enough. Because, again, as we mentioned before, the Yamaha is blatantly the best all-round bike in the field, without question. So, again, it's a very, very risky proposition. And for Rossi, it's kind of in his best interest to try and get Lorenzo out of that team because, on paper, that's your number one title threat right there. Not so much Marquez, even though you could easily argue Marquez is just as bad a threat on that Honda, despite the issues it's got. Marquez is clearly able to at least nullify a lot of that. But King, on your end, I mean, weighing it all up, if you're Lorenzo, I mean, what do you do? I mean, this is a very, very important decision. Like this is like, let's break out LeBron James, dedicate an hour of ESPN airtime, say it's for charity, and let's get it out there. What do you reckon?
Oh, I have to agree with the Johnson. It depends on what Ducati can bring to the table. Like, my gut instinct says go. Like, yes, you could win another championship, but do you just want another championship? Or do you want to, you can go to Ducati, shove it in in Valentino Rossi's face, not only win a title with a different manufacturer, but win it with a manufacturer that Rossi couldn't.
Yeah, because we all know,
as I said, ego's powerful.
Yeah, Valentino Rossi went to Ducati in 2010. Did 2 years there, didn't win a single race. Was well documented how much he struggled with the team, and he admitted it didn't work. And Ducati's list of quality riders is like notches on a bedpost. You've got Nicky Hayden, you've got Loris Capirossi, you've got Andrea Dovizioso, Andrea Iannone currently at the moment. You could go back a little bit further as well with guys like Cal Crutchlow, who was, again, a very solid rider, but is, again, not good enough to get anything out of that bike. So they have so many riders that have been through those doors in the last 5 years, and it's not been able to work. And again, even including the greatest rider of all time. And like again, before, it's a very special club of riders that have only won on two different manufacturers. Valentino Rossi is one, Casey Stoner is another one, Agostini is one, Wayne Rainey is another one. So there's only, I think, 5 or 6 that have won on two different manufacturers. And like Lorenzo, I've said before, is a I'd say top 8 or 9 rider of all time. Like, if he wins a title on the Ducati, he goes right into the top 3 or 4 at that point in time, because that would be unprecedented in this modern era where we all know Ducati have struggled for about 7 or 8 years now. So for me, I think he's 29 next month. I think King's right. I think winning a 4th top flight title with Yamaha doesn't really change his position when it comes to his legacy. It reminds me a lot of Tom Brady. There was not really a big difference between him winning ring number 3 and ring number 4 in terms of, is he the GOAT, basically. And people were saying that when he had 3. The fact he had 4 didn't really change anything at that point in time. I'm thinking the same kind of thing here with Lorenzo. Like, he's won 3 world titles with Yamaha. Winning a 4th, I don't think is a massive difference. Winning a 4th with Yamaha would be winning a 4th with Ducati would be huge. In the same way, I think Vettel in F1 winning a 5th world title with Ferrari would be absolutely insane. So for me, I think you pull the trigger. I think there's.
I agree.
I think there's too much. I think there's too much of a push from Yamaha, and I think there's too big of a pull from Ducati for him to ignore it for any longer. Because, like, he's not going to be the number 1 guy in the sport, or at least look that way, until Rossi retires, which is not going to be for another 3 seasons now. So at that point, Lorenzo will be 32, and his best years could already be behind him. So, you know what? While he's in his prime, I say cash in and make the switch. But if you're listening to the show, why don't leave a comment and tell me what you think? Should Lorenzo jump ship? Well, I'd love to hear you guys take this, because there's so many different angles regarding this that could make it interesting going forward. And, from the money to the status at Yamaha to the Ducati factor, are they good enough, etc. There's so many different angles, and I think that's what makes this story so intriguing. But